one of the ways that Meher Baba drew me to him was through the little pieces of humor that he showed me about my life. And a lot of it at the time, this was in the 80s, the late 70s, I'd be at work and somebody would ask for a file and I'd go, oh, where am I going to find that file? And I'd open the drawer and the file would be in my hand. And the beginning of the month, November 2nd, is a feast called All Souls Day. And on All Souls Day in 1975, my brother's daughter was baptized. And having come from a Catholic background, we went to Mass. And the bulletin that they gave out was a picture of a harlequin all, dressed up, and it said Feast of Fools. And on the Baba calendar, I saw All Souls Day this past week. And I said, oh, Feast of Fools. Well, this particular niece was killed when she was 24. She was out hiking and a tree collapsed and fell on her and she was gone. And my brother's only daughter, and it was, terrible. And it happened a week after our father died, so it was a rough time. But anyway, so I always think of Heather's baptism on All Souls Day. So I said, in my memory box, I have that bulletin from that baptism. I'm going to go and pull it out and scan it and send it to my brother and Heather's brother, Brian, my nephew. And, my back room, I have a closet that is my attic, and it's as overloaded as anybody's attic could be. And my memory box is tucked way in the back. So I'm thinking, okay. So I start, and all of a sudden, right next to me, there's a box full of books. And I said, I am trying to get together all my books for the sale next weekend. So I pull out this little box of books, and I open it up, and there are some pamphlets on the top. And the third one is this particular Mass bulletin. And so I got to scan it. I got to send it to my brother and everything. And I just thought, Bob is so sweet, to do that.
Sweet?
Yeah. So that's my mystical experience this month.
Yay.
This is pretty interesting, kind of funny actually. When I was 13 years old, I had been around a lot of Baba people who lived in the house that I grew up in. My mom and dad were divorced, but they switched places in the house, taking care of the kids. So I was the oldest, and I was about 12 or 13, and I used to walk across 95, which was down at the end of the block, and walk to the bowling alley and bowl. And then, so I had heard about Baba quite a bit. I didn't have any, decision-making process going on about Baba or any thought process, but I knew about Baba, I knew of Baba's name. So one day I'm walking to the bowling alley, and I had some thoughts going around in my mind while I was walking down the street, and it had to do with Baba. And I was thinking really hard about whatever it was. I forget exactly what I was thinking, but all I remember is that the most perfect thing happened to me in the split second that it happened. Is I'm just walking down the street, and I stepped in this humongous puddle of water. Big giant hole in the road, full of water, and I, boom, stepped right in it. And at that very moment, I thought of Bob and said, I know God is real. That's what happened to me at that moment, when I was really young. So that is, I'll always remember that.
So let's see. I always loved Jesus. I didn't know why, but I always did. I wanted to know who he was. So at 13, I went to sing King of Kings, and that was a movie about Jesus. Maybe some of you have seen it. And I came out of that theater crying. And that's just one experience that I remember. So, I was on the road with a band, and I went into a bookstore and I found Listen Humanity. And I started reading that, and it really struck me. And I wanted to know more about who Meher Baba was. And then a friend of mine invited me to a dinner. And at this dinner, there was a chiropractor who was adjusting everybody. And so I got this really neat vibe, and I said, "What are you into?" And he said, "Meher Baba." I said, "Oh, I'd like to find out more about him." He said, "You want to come to a meeting?" I said, "Yeah, okay." So we went to a meeting at the Ikowitzes, David and Joe Ikowitz's house, one of their houses. And this was, I think, 69, and there was a fellow by the name of, what was his name? Bruce Hoffman had just come back from 69 Darshan, so he was giving a talk. Oh, I'm going to go back a little. I was in the band in 1967, and I was starting my search. I just had graduated high school, and I started my search. Started looking around. So in the band was a guy, the piano player, who gave me some pamphlets. He said, "My English teacher gave me this, and I'm not into this stuff, but I know you're into all this kind of far out stuff, you know." So it was all about Meher Baba. It was little pamphlets, and I read that. That was my first time becoming aware of Meher Baba. Then on the road, that's when I found Listen Humanity. Okay, so back to Bruce Hoffman. Bruce Hedendahl was the chiropractor. Maybe some of you know him. And we went to the Ikowitzes for the Baba meeting, and Bruce gave a talk about his trip to India for the 69 Darshan. So after the meeting, I went up to him, told him how much I loved to talk and this and that, and he said, "How did you find out about Meher Baba?" I said, "Well, I first found out about Meher Baba from a musician friend who gave me some pamphlets, who said he got these from his English teacher in 1967. So now this is 1969, 70. And Bruce said, "What's his name?" I said, "Michael Maggiano." He says, "I'm the one who gave him those pamphlets." He says he was one of my students. So that's part one. I'm going to pass it on now.
I'm going to tell them when we went to India together, Robin and I. This was, is this close enough?
Yes.
This is 1981. And I'll have to think a little bit because, it's quite a while ago and I'm pretty old now. Anyways, when we were young, we went to India together. And I was supposed to go with my husband, my son, and daughter. Everyone was supposed to go, the whole family, for the first time. But Brad, my son, was 14. He got meningitis. So he wasn't able to go on this trip. And he went into the hospital and was put immediately on penicillin intravenously. And the very next day, from being extremely sick with a high fever and, a horrible headache and all the symptoms of meningitis, the very next day he was like all better. But the doctor said, no, he's here for 10 days. This is a 10-day treatment, and he's out of all danger, but he can't go to India. He's staying right here. So my husband at the time was not this husband. I had another husband before. Yeah, this is husband number 2. He said, well, you go to India and with our daughter, and I'll stay behind. And when Brad's all better and out of the hospital, I'll take him to the center. And it seemed like a good plan. So I went to India with our daughter, who was 11 at the time. Robin was already there. She beat me by a day or two, got there first. And when I got to India, people said to me, as soon as I got there, people said to me, several people, you know, Mara prayed for Brad, because when Brad got sick, in those days we sent a telegram, and there was no internet. So we immediately sent a telegram that the family wasn't coming to India because, and so Mara was told that, so she prayed for Brad. So I was told this, but it just went right over my head. I didn't say anything. I didn't react to it. I don't know why. Nothing. So then we went out to Marazad, and Mani immediately says to me, you know, Mara prayed for Brad. And I thought, well, nice, that's nice. No, didn't make any impression at all. And never said thank you to Mara, never showed any appreciation, just heard that. So had a fabulous trip, me and Robin. We were there for 3 weeks, I think. And came back, and Brad's perfectly fine. He's completely healthy. So 15 years about goes by, and my daughter has her very first job. She's starting the morning of her first job. She has an attack where she loses her vision driving to work. So she calls me, and I go and get her, and we go to the eye doctor, and the eye doctor says, this is not an eye problem. He said, it's a neurological problem, so I want you to go right away to see Dr. So-and-so, the neurologist. So I take my daughter to the neurologist, and as I'm going into his office, I see his name, Dr. So-and-so, and when I got in there, I said to him, you don't remember me, but 15 years ago, you were my son's neurologist. My son had meningitis. So he sends for his nurse, and he says, go up to the attic and get the records for Brad Brunette. And I thought, well, this is really strange, because this is an old case, 15 years ago. Why does he want to even see the records? So the nurse brings the file folder, and he opens it up, and he says to me, oh, yes, he had meningitis. He said he had viral meningitis, and he said, we put him on penicillin, but that had no effect at all, because as you know, antibiotics do not cure viruses. And then it hit me what had happened and why he had the very next day so miraculously gotten better, because Mara had prayed for him. That's what cured him, not the penicillin. But it took 15 years for me to know that, and I never would have known it if this doctor hadn't, for no apparent reason, asked for these records, and that was, to tell me. And then, of course, Mara wasn't here. This is already in the 90s, and Mara was gone. But I thanked her anyway. Yeah. Hey, Baba.
What a story.
Your story.
Is this Vinod?
Yes.
We met in 81 in the old PC, Robin and I. You were policeman in Mumbai. Oh, your brother. Oh, well, you were with your brother at the time, because the two brothers were together in the old PC. We were introduced. And your brother asked me, what do Americans think of the police in the U.S.? And I had no answer, because we didn't think anything one way or the other. And he told us how Indians didn't have a very high opinion of the police in Mumbai. Is that still true? No?
So what should I say? Actually, we were with Baba since our childhood. Through our parents, we came to Baba. My father was in search of a master, so he found, after going to various places, ultimately he was lucky, he found Baba in Pune. We were staying in Pune only in 1958. Then Baba took a lot of interest. When he met him first time in Guru Prasad, Baba took a lot of interest, and he told him, bring your family and be close to me. Baba was coming to West that time, but he gave him some references of 3 of his books. He said, read those books, and when I come back, we'll meet. So in 58, I think Baba came here only in Myrtle Beach. Then when he returned, he said, keep in touch. Then my father was he was in a government service, in the judiciary, he was a judge, and he used to be transferred every 3 years. So Baba told him, get yourself transferred to Ahmednagar and be close to me. So he tried and he got a transfer to Ahmednagar. It was early 60s, 61, 62. So we came to Nagar, but my father could not find a suitable house in Nagar to stay. So he was searching for a house. In the meanwhile, Baba told him, you come and stay in our Kuchru quarters, means Meher Nazar, which is now trust compound. It was Baba's property. So Baba told my father, you be here, be my guest, he told. All our full family, come and stay here. So we were so lucky. So we stayed in that, which is the present trust office, that was our home. For 4 years we were there. Baba kept us there with him, and he took a lot of interest in our family. He used to regularly come there, call us to Mehrazad. We were small children. We were about 10 years, me and my brother. But every time when he met us, he used to ask us, who am I? He used to ask us children. Then we used to say, God, Baba, you're God. But I've found that every time when we met him first, he used to ask that question to us. Then we used to say, Baba, you're God. And we had no other connection with any other God. So I think because he wanted to give us that conviction and faith, so every time he used to make us repeat, Baba, you're God. Then he used to feel, he used to say, but you're just saying or you feel from within. So actually we felt, because we had no other, we didn't know any other God. And that time we were going to a school in Nagar. There was only one convent school, Sacred Hearts Convent. There they used to tell us about Christ and tell us that Christ is God. And so I was also like you said you were attracted to Jesus. I was also attracted to Jesus somehow. And I felt that he's really God. Then like once Baba, when he met us again, he asked me again the same question, who am I? So I told him, Baba, you're God, I know you're staying, but in the school they say Jesus is God. Who is the real God? So Baba said, he was and I am, and we are the same. I still remember. Such a nice answer for a child. So we had never any doubt about his being God. He showed so much interest in our family. He was in seclusion most of the time, but he had given us permission to write. He said, you could write any letter to us children also. If you have any problem, if you want to ask me anything, you can write a letter. And every day mail used to go from Adi's office to Mehrazad. So we also used to write any small things to ask Baba. And my mother used to write every 15-20 days, all her household things, any problem she had. She used to write to Baba and ask her, what should I do in this case? And Baba used to reply.
Did she accept Baba at first?
No, she had another story, I think that everybody knows.
No.
No? That's a famous story, how she came to Baba. So initially when my father came, Baba told my father, now bring your wife also. So my father told my mother, she had already a guru. They have a family gurus we have in India, everybody. So she had a family guru from her father's side, and they had faith in that guru and they used to visit them. So my mother said, I don't want to make any other guru. I already got a guru. I don't want to go to Baba. But Baba then said, I'm not telling you to make me a guru. I'm just inviting you to meet me.
What was your mother's name?
Girja Khilnani. Her mention is there in Lord Mayor. So then she went reluctantly to Baba. Then there's a backstory to her in her life. When she was very small, they were brought up in a very religious family. My mother, from her father's side, they used to follow Sikh religion and read the Sikh, that holy book, Granth Sahib is known as. And father was very particular about religious. He used to make them pray and all and tell them about God. So she as a small child used to ask her father, but where is this God? You're telling about God all the time and he's all powerful. Where is he? Why can't we meet that God? We should be able to see him. So she asked everybody in the school, she asked and the teacher said, no, God lives in heaven. You can't meet him. But she was very curious. So she said, I am not getting a suitable answer, so I'll write a letter to God. So she wrote a letter to God in heaven. She put the address and she said, God, if you're there, I want to meet you. Or come and meet me. She wrote that letter and she posted the letter in a letterbox. Any letter. She thought God will get the letter. And as a small child, just she thought, she was 5-6 years old. And she didn't tell this to anybody, not to her parents, no to anybody. She put the letter in the letter and forgot about it. Then as a child she forgot about it. So now when she met Baba, Baba called her. So first thing Baba said, you didn't want to meet me, now you didn't want to come, but you were the one, you had written a letter to me. Don't you remember as a child, you wanted to meet God. So I am that God, I got that letter, therefore I called you to meet me. She had forgotten completely about it, and then she remembered. Then she remembered, and Baba said, therefore I called you. I don't want you to make me a guru or something. It was your interest to meet God. So then she completely then she fell at his feet. So that was her story. Then she forgot about her guru, everything. But Baba said, don't leave your religion. You're reading that holy book, those prayers come to me only. So you continue following that, your Sikh religion, read that Granth Sahib that is known as holy book. It's very, they've considered that as a guru now. So all in Gurudwaras and the Sikh temples, they read that. So she had till the end, she died in 2008 in Bombay, till the end she had that book and she used to read every day. And Baba said that if there's praise of God, Baba said they come to me only, so it doesn't matter. And you follow, he said you can follow your guru also, I have no problem. Ultimately everything comes to me because I am the God, I am the highest of the high. So all prayers to anybody comes to me, Baba said. So he said continue. So there are many small stories. Then 4 years Baba kept us close to him in the Kushru quarters. He used to visit us, he used to call us to Mehrazad, used to take interest in our studies, ask us every time. So we used to ask Baba about our studies and all, what we should do. So once we were in the school, so just I was about to go to the college. So I asked Baba, what should I study? Which subject should I take as my special subject and go ahead? So Baba said, I'll let you know when the time comes, I'll let you know. So then I also forgot about it. Then in January 1969, middle of January 1969, I suddenly got a letter from Baba, a rich letter from Baba saying that you had asked Baba what you should study and Baba will be happy if you study chemistry, if you do a post-graduation in chemistry. So I've still got the letter. Around middle of January 69, imagine, Baba was not well, he was suffering so much. He was in pain, but he remembered that and he let me know. And my brother had also asked, he was still younger, just out of fun he asked. He wanted to be a pilot. So he also asked, Baba said, you're too young, I'll also let you know later on. So he said, Baba, no, I want to be a pilot. I'll be a pilot. So Baba said, no. Baba said, no, don't be a pilot, but I'll let you know. You're still young. So when he came home, he said, no, I want to be a pilot, I'll be a pilot. Then he tried when he grew up, but he had an eye number, his eyesight became weak. So he was disqualified for that. He could not be a pilot. And other important thing. And when we were staying there, Baba had told us that now whenever you leave this town, you inform me. So once my father had little touring jobs, he used to go in the districts for inspection and all. So once in the rainy season, we went out, but we forgot to inform Baba somehow. So we went on a short trip in Nagar only, in a car in the rainy season. So when we were on the trip, suddenly our car skid in the rain, and it overturned twice, rolled over twice, and fell in a ditch. Wow. We all were 4 inside the car. We are 4 and drive, but fortunately nothing happened to anybody. Car just rolled over and straightly fell in a ditch. So we were very thankful to Baba and all that. When we came home, Adi Irani, who was Baba's secretary, he was our neighbor, we were staying together. He said, where had you gone 2 days back? Baba came, and normally Baba used to go to his office, then he used to inform us that I'll be coming to you. So he said that day Baba came and straight he went to your house, outside your house, and he stood there, your house was locked. He stood for a few seconds, then he touched the door and touched the hand to his head, and then he came to me. And why you didn't inform Baba? He had given an order that you should inform him and then go. So he said, no, sorry, we forgot. And that was the very time that that accident happened. Then we correlated. It was the very time when that accident happened. During that time, Baba was there, standing outside our door of our closed house. And then he saved us that way. So his nazar was constantly on us. There were many small such incidences.
Those are precious.
And once he had told us, we were coming from Pune back to Nagar, he told us that start exactly at 4 o'clock for coming. But somehow something happened, we could not start at 4 o'clock, we started at 5 or 5:30, little late. So then when we started for the journey, our car broke down after a few kilometers. Then we got it repaired somehow with difficulty. Then again after a few kilometers, again it broke down. It would not start. This kept on happening every few, means half an hour or 1 hour. Then ultimately we had to hire a truck, put the car in the truck and bring it to Nagar, and we reached at around midnight, after midnight, 1 or 2 o'clock. Then Baba was very particular. He asked next day, how was the trip and what did happen, how were you safe and all that. So my father said, no, we had a lot of problems, we came very late and all that. Baba said, what time you started? So Baba said, we started around 5:30. Baba said, why? I told you to start exactly at 4 o'clock. Why did you disobey me? So Baba knew something was going to happen. In order to help us and overcome that problem, he changed the time. He knew what is good for us. We didn't know the importance of this small. Even he worked with such small things also. Baba said, therefore, always you should obey me. So we learned that lesson.
How do you obey him now?
So now Baba has told us so many things, how to live and all. And internally he guides. Now I've seen that internally, if we have any problem, if we just surrender to him and tell him, then we get an answer, or things manipulate that way. Circumstances change in such a way, so we have to do with particular thing. So that I feel is Baba's wish. Whatever happens naturally, that is Baba's wish in our life. I think in everybody's life. If we don't, suppose we want to do something, we try hard and it doesn't happen, and something else happens, so we should feel that this is Baba's wish for us. In Nagar Small, we had, last time I forgot to tell that in my talk. When we were staying there, Nagar Center was in the compound only. So we as children, we thought we should open a small Baba Center in our house. And Bahu's family was our neighbor. They were our neighbor. So we were children, myself, my brother, and Mehernath, Bahu's son and daughter Sheila. They were just staying close by. So they also said we will make a small center and then we'll invite Baba for doing the opening, and we'll have Baba programs. So we did that. We had a small room, we decorated it, we put Baba's picture, then we made it a small center, and they also did that. Mehernath and Sheila, that in their house, and they said we'll invite Baba and then we'll ask Baba whose center is better and who loves you more. So it was a sort of competition. It was sort of, so we were not showing each other what preparations we were doing. So we had one small common servant who was working at both the houses. So we used to send him as a spy to see whether their center is better, and so that we improve. And so we made the center, both of us, and we invited Baba. So Baba said, when I come there, I'll come. So he came. We had put the ribbon and we told Baba to do the opening of the center. Then he came to our house first. He did the opening. We made him sit. Then we sang bhajans for him. There was one very popular bhajan that time, Tumi ho Mata Pita Tumi ho. It was a movie song, but it was like a prayer. So
Meaning of it is
you are our father, you are our mother, you are our friend, you are our everybody. It was very popular bhajan that time. So we sang that, I still remember. We sang that, we gave prasad. We called our few friends who were staying around, we gave them prasad. Baba was happy. Then they called him Baba. Mehernath and Sheila. They called Baba to their place. So the same thing they did. Baba did their same thing. They sang their bhajan. And then we asked Baba, whose center, Baba, did you like? So Baba said, I'm there in both the places. How can I say one place is better than the other? So I am in both places, and he was satisfied. But I think then my brother says that my brother, he says Baba didn't say like that. He said that when he was with us, he said your center is better, but don't tell them. And when he was with them, he said your center is better, but don't tell them.
Which one did he?
Like Baba.
Which one did he open first?
Huh?
Which one did he open first?
I think ours he opened first.
See.
He opened ours, then they called him. So my brother, we were small. I think Baba said that, but he says no. Baba said that to us privately, and then he told them privately that no, Baba, your center is better. Maybe Baba was mischievous.
And then did you see it? Did
Then
you
we
go
saw
visit
it.
each other?
Then we used to visit and we used to call each other.
Sweet.
So many such things.
Can you sing that part of that?
I am not a singer, but
Oh.
it's Tumi ho Mata Pita, Tumi ho Bandhu. So it's based on Gita's philosophy. Gita, Krishna has said that I am your father, I am your mother, I am your brother, I am your friend, I am your everybody. So it's based on that Gita's teaching. It's a very beautiful song. In Hindi it is. And it also says that we are helpless, we are nobody, we need your love, we need your grace, we surrender to you, we offer our life to you. Those words are very beautiful. It was very famous that time, so we sang, Baba liked it.
Very sweet.
Did he come again to the center?
No, he came, he used to visit us. Center was late. He used to come to our house. Whenever he came there for his work, he came there, and he used to be very particular about our going to school, studying properly. So once he came, my brother had not gone to school. So he said, why he has not gone to school? My father said he is not well. So what has happened? He was very particular. My father said he has got some cold and cough and all that. Then Baba asked, which doctor you ought to get him treated with? So we gave the doctor's name. Baba said, no, change the doctor. He gave the other doctor's name. Baba said, he said, go to this particular doctor for the treatment.
Nice to have friends in high places.
Baba was very your friend. Once Baba came to visit, he used to come suddenly sometimes. Once he came and we were not, my father used to go for a walk in the morning. So he said, where is Prem? My father's name was Prem. So he came and stood out. So he said, I want to meet Prem. Where is he? So we said, no, he had gone for a walk. Baba, he said, I'll wait, just call him. I want to meet him. Then we sent a servant. He went and brought my father. He came running, and Baba said, I was waiting for you. So I wanted to meet you. My father was so touched. He waited all the way for him to come back. And so many small incidents are there. My father was there, he had some heart problems, he was not keeping well. So he told my mother, no, I don't know, I may die anytime. So you be independent and all that. So my mother got frightened, so she wrote to Baba. She said, my husband, he's frightening me all the time that I'll die. Then, but what should I do? Baba, when Baba came next, when he used to go from Mehrazad to Guru Prasad, he used to halt there outside. And Baba lovers from Nagar used to just meet him and take his darshan there, outside this, on the main road. So he was going that day to Guru Prasad sometime. Then we met there. We met him, we took his darshan in the car. Then Baba said to my mother, don't worry at all, you have written to me, I know that you are worried, but Prem won't die, and he'll die after all these people who are standing here. He's got it, so don't worry at all. He'll surpass all these people who are standing here. So don't worry. And he gave the reference of a doctor. He told my father, go to this particular doctor. In the Booth Hospital, there was a hospital in Nagar, must have heard. Booth Hospital. So there one famous doctor was there. So Baba gave the name. He said, go to this particular doctor and get it treated through that doctor. So we were really blessed, and those were our favorite days. Those 4 years were the favorite period of our life. Still I remember all the time, as if it happened just yesterday. And during those time, I think Baba laid the foundation of our internal links with him. As Baba used to say, And then afterwards, we got again transferred. My father had to leave and he went to another place. But again, Baba said, come back to Nagar and be with me till I am in body. Try to be near me. So again, he got a transfer back to Nagar, but we were staying in some other place. He got accommodation. But that time, Baba was busy in his other things and he was not so close. But by those 4 years, he was like a family member, like the head of our family. So he guided us in small things and he took so much active interest. And our connection was deeply established that time with him. Internal links were completely established, which are continuing still now.
Everybody has their own way of coming to Baba, and I was always questioning. And so after that experience of meeting Bruce Hoffman, I would go to the center in New York City, go to the Baba meetings there, which were always great. Established all the friendships of people who live here now and all kinds of crazy stuff. So backtracking just a little, I got into a guy named by the name of Richie Havens, and some of you may know who he is, but he was a folk singer, opened Woodstock, and I just loved his voice and loved his style, and so I started singing a lot of his songs and playing the way he played. He was like my idol at that time. So I guess it was around 1970, thereabouts, I decided to come to the center for the first time. And I challenged Baba and I said, okay, Baba, if I wasn't convinced yet who he was, even though reading the books and everything, I still wasn't convinced. I said, if you are who you say you are, give me a sign that I should go to the center. I was kind of reluctant to go. I had a feeling, I don't know if I should go, and I had a feeling like that. And but I forgot that I asked Baba, challenged Baba, whether I should go or not. But I decided to go, even though I didn't remember that. So I'm on my way to the airport in New York City, and my guitar in my hand. I'm walking down through the hallway, through the gate, towards the gates. And all of a sudden I look up, and standing in front of me, walking towards me, is Richie Havens. And I stop and he stops. And he asks me, where are you going? Now, why would he stop and ask me where I'm going? I said, I'm going to the Meher Baba Center. And with that, he opens his jacket lapel, and he's got a Meher Baba button. Well, obviously I got my answer. And that was pretty incredible. And a few years later, I think it was 1976, after my parents always said, oh, he's into something else, and now he's into a new thing, and now he's into another thing. But when I found out about Baba, I started leaving the books around, putting pictures up of Meher Baba. I was living at home at the time, and my mother would take him down, and I'd put him up, and she'd take him down. And then she started reading the discourses, and she really enjoyed it. And then a lot of Baba lovers who were coming through to go to India would stop by, and my parents loved the love that they got from them. So they really felt at home. So I had an opportunity to come down and play some music here, invitation from Jane Haynes. And so I invited my parents, and I drove down. My parents flew. And when they got here, they were beginning the tour, and my father went into the lagoon cabin. And after a little while, he came out, and he was white as a ghost. And he never told me what happened. But after that first day on the center, they were Baba lovers. Both of them became Baba lovers. Yeah. Yeah. And that's it.
I'll just say that the first impression I had when I first met Mayor Baba was like a long lost son that had one day come home. That was my first impression. And Baba was so loving. I mean, the way he greeted me, he embraced me, gave me a big hug, he kissed me on my cheeks, and then he had me sit near him on the carpet next to him. I guess there was about as many people in the room as there is now, maybe 15 or 20 such people that were very close to him. So the first thing he asked me is how I had come. And I said, Baba, I was able to come because it was your will. And I knew how true this was, because for 6 months I was trying to find a way to go to raise the money or work my way on a ship or do anything. Nothing worked. Until one day I got so desperate because Mani had sent a letter saying that Baba would soon be entering seclusion for 6 months. And I thought, oh, it's been 6 months. Now it's another 6 months. It's too much for me. You know, I got to get over there. I got to see him. So when I got that letter, I became desperate because he was going to go into seclusion. Well, now I thought, what am I going to do? You know, desperate. In desperation, sometimes you can think something up. So I did. And I thought what I should have done in the first place, and I wrote Baba a letter, and I said, Baba, I want very much to have the benefit of your love, your direction, and your guidance. But the only thing preventing me from coming to see you is I don't have enough money to go. But I know if it is your will, I would be able to go, providing it's your wish. Quick, a letter comes back in no time at all. I was amazed how fast a letter could come from India. So Baba said one sentence. It was only one sentence in the letter. Don't worry. Circumstances will adjust themselves. Love. Love, Mayor Baba.
Can you repeat it?
Yeah. Baba had said, don't worry. Circumstances will adjust themselves. Love, Mayor Baba. That was all that was in there. So I got this here. I thought, oh, this is good. I wonder what's going to happen. Had no idea what was going to happen that was any different than what was happening, which was nothing. So within 2 weeks, I'm going to skip over the whole part of what happened, but I'm going to tell you the part of what occurred. And what occurred was, and 2 weeks later, I was there with Mayor Baba. The circumstances that wouldn't come together, that wouldn't work, everything all of a sudden started to come together and work. You know, no became yes. There's nothing like it, let me tell you. When things can work out instead of not, you're going to really like that. So now I'm there with Baba, and Baba was, in the mornings, he would have letters read to him that would come from many different countries, actually, and it was spoken of in many different languages, which Baba seemed to understand when Erich would read that. So the ones in English, of course, I could understand. And these letters, Baba would immediately reply to, but then sometimes he would say, this is my reply, but hold the letter. Don't send it until I tell you. Because I knew that Baba in his inner work had to do some work first with those persons that were going to receive it, in order so that when they got it, it would really have the right impact. And I found that in the course of my life with Baba, his timing was impeccable. It was just so perfect. Everything happened at just exactly the right time that you could get the most out of what he was saying. And you see, when I went there, I wanted Baba to show me God. I wasn't going there just to visit him in his physical self. I wanted to see the real self, because I had read in some of the books where Baba was saying, I am not this body. In fact, I even brought something here because I wanted you to hear what Baba actually said about himself. And here he's explaining, this is what I had read before. I am not this body that you see. I wear it like a coat when I come down and visit you. I have come down from the highest level in order to bring you up to my level. God realization is the very goal of all creation. All earthly pleasure, howsoever great, is but a fleeting shadow of the eternal bliss of God realization. All mundane knowledge, howsoever comprehensive, is but a distorted reflection of the absolute truth of God realization. All human might, howsoever imposing, is but a fragment of the infinite power of God realization. All that is noble, beautiful, and lovely, all that is great and good and inspiring in the universe is just an infinitesimal fraction of the unfading and unspeakable glory of God realization. My existence is for this love and truth, and to suffering humanity I say, have hope. I have come to help you in winning the one victory of all victories, to win yourself. Well now, I thought if anybody could read that and have any kind of thought about what the goal of life is, what they're here in this body and in this lifetime, all the mundane things, the politics, the religions, everything else is nothing compared to what Baba was explaining about why we're here and what the goal of our life is. We hardly ever think about that, because you think, well, I don't get any divine experiences. I'm not experiencing these things. But the point is, you will. And that was Baba's mission. His mission wasn't just to give you advice about your everyday affairs, that you have a problem with this, or somebody got sick, or somebody is getting married, or you need a job, or what. I mean, that was not the point. Sure, he helps with all those things. But the thing is, his mission. Why was he needing to incarnate in human form at all, or to be amongst us? It wasn't to settle some of our personal problems that maybe a good therapist could take care of as well. No, it was to give us the understanding and point us in the direction that he wants to give us his experience. His experience, which is the highest experience, which I just read what that experience is. That's our future, that's our destiny, and that's why you're following Mayor Baba and I'm following Mayor Baba, because nowhere else can you realize this or consciously experience this. This is what it's all about. This is why we're here. And when a person understands that, then they really can develop a detachment. In other words, you do everything like you're doing in the world, it's okay, but you have the understanding in the back of your mind that you're really going somewhere that is the goal and purpose of your existence. You have to experience what Baba is telling you he came to have us experience. Well now, I became a poet one day. I didn't know I could write poetry. All of a sudden, in 2010, I told Judy, my sweet Judy, I told her, I said, I think I can write poems. I hadn't written poems for many, many years. I wrote poems to Baba when Baba was living. For 10 years, I would write him poems. And it was the expression of what I felt about who he is and why I want to be with him and all of that. It was very personal and very loving. And Baba liked my poems, so okay. But then when he dropped his body, I stopped. I didn't write any more poems. I said, well, that's enough. Until 2010, so many years later. And in the beginning of the year, I said, Judy, I think I can write poems now. I'm going to write some poems. So you see this thick book? Poems. They're all poems. 150 poems. At the end of the year 2010, after I wrote these 3 books of poems, which was all put in one book, I said, that's enough. If anybody can read 150 poems, it's enough for them. Then I'd be lucky anybody can read that much. But okay, I'm going to read you this poem. Because, Baba spoke about the future. And he spoke about how 3/4 of the world would be destroyed. And there's something about that a lot of people didn't know, because a lot of people got very upset at the time when they heard that. They go, oh, this is terrible, this is really terrible. So now my poem describes what Baba gave me to understand about this. It came down from the highest of the high. 3/4 of the world would be destroyed. Mankind and angels trembled when they heard this news. From you, the sustainer of all things. Who would be saved on that fateful day? What did this declaration mean? Was this the great judgment being foretold? The separation of the good from the bad, like the chaff from the wheat? When the compassionate Father saw the fear and worry racing through so many minds, he gave his clarification. 3/4 of the world's ignorance would be destroyed. Was this the annihilation of 3/4 of the world's misery? 3/4 of the fear, dread, sorrow, pain, and the many plagues, mental, emotional, and physical, that has haunted mankind for ages? O divine Savior of mankind, you came not to destroy us for our weaknesses and ignorance, but to enlighten us, to bring a golden age of love and truth for all, to take us out of a dark age. The world does not need more death and destruction, but more life and love. You are the great awakener. You who are behind every heart and mind. You are the destroyer of the underpinnings of separateness. It is crumbling. Man and God are no longer divided. This is the truth that sets us free. Man and God are not divided. We have the tendency to worship God like he's someone else. He's up there somewhere, who knows where, can't see him. What Baba is saying is that your own self is the self that God is. But you're not seeing what you are. You're not seeing your unlimited being. You're seeing your very finite body and your mental constructions of thoughts and feelings. But when you go beyond the mind into that non-dual state that he has to take you to, because I don't know how you're going to get there otherwise, then you experience what you are. You experience yourself, but unlimited and not limited. And this is why he is saying that his love is unconditional. It's not for the good or the bad. He's in a non-dual state of being. It's not the opposites of good and bad and high and low and all that. He is in the state of selfhood. He's in the state where he sees the one self that is the self of everyone. Try to wrap your mind around that. The one self that is the self of everyone. When you realize God, it's sort of like a drop falling into the ocean. It's not an ocean of water in this case, it's an ocean of consciousness. And when the drop, like in the ocean of water, touches the ocean, what happens to it? It becomes the ocean. It's no longer a drop. It's the whole thing now. And it don't matter how many souls, how many people, how many drops of consciousness there is all over the universe, when it touches the ocean of consciousness, it becomes the same ocean. And that's why Baba said that anyone who realizes God, all these God-realized masters of the past, present, and what will be in the future, are all able to say, I am God, because they're saying, I am the ocean of everything. This is what they're really saying. Their consciousness has touched the ocean of consciousness and become the ocean. You know, like a drop of water, it touches the ocean of water, becomes the ocean. Well, now, when I understood this, you know, it took me a long time to gain an understanding of all this. Then I understood why Baba said his love is unconditional. If he would say, I am closer to you than your own breath. So what's closer to you than your own breath? Yourself. You're the self. So he went ahead and he said, I am that. I am your very self, closer to you than anything else could ever be, because I am you. But in the unlimited state. Anyhow, be that as it is. We are at a point now in our lives where we're trying to understand, like they say that when a baby gets born, it wants to try to understand just what its surroundings are, what's going on. Who am I? Where am I? What are the rules of the of the world that I'm in? All of this is part and parcel of what Baba is trying to teach us, because we are like children in his love. We don't know everything, and that's a problem. That is a real problem. But it doesn't always have to be like that. And so he says, okay, you come to me, I'll show you what's real, and you can put aside all that is not. I got another poem for you. This one is even more sophisticated. It's called It's War. It's War. Name of the poem. I have a war going on in my heart. I see how things are and how they could be. My sight keeps improving. I can see what was invisible before. A real warrior fights for a righteous cause, to protect the weak and to bring justice where it is needed. But I fight to bring love into the heart, into the lives of the loveless. It is because of you that I am learning the art of war. I did not ask for this. Who knew that I would have to fight in the streets of my own mind? That I would have to brave the worst onslaughts of the temptations offered to me? How could I do anything for anyone when I needed help myself? It's a good thing that you came into my life, the master magician of the soul. Without thinking, the transformation was happening. The great Armageddon was happening within me. The final battle that would bring me the God state. I expected that this war would be out there, but Jerusalem is in the heart where you are. It's war, and it always has been, till the battle is won. Everyone will be the victor, and everyone will enjoy the spoils, because it's your almighty love that conquers all. You know, Baba makes you understand many things, but he doesn't give you the experience. He gives you the understanding. And we're at the level that that's important for us to gain that understanding before he can begin to give the actual experience of your inner state, which is the mystical side. We call it the mystical side, but it's really very natural when it happens. If anyone has any questions, you know, I'm still here. You can ask me. All right, I can answer that. It reminds me that when we were sitting with Baba, he asked if everyone would like to hear him give a discourse or a message, or whether they would like to sit with him in silence. So I was sitting right there next to him, and there must have been about 200 people in the room, and no one was saying anything. But I was thinking, you know, I'd really like to hear him say something. I'm not very good at silence. So I keep quiet. I was never a good meditator. My mind was always moving and nothing ever seemed to happen. Well, in this case, Baba did begin to give a message out. It was like he read our minds. You know, he'd rather hear something because we weren't very good at sitting in silence. Although you never know what happens when you sit with an avatar in silence. It could be quite different. Maybe next time I'll try that. I had a lot of experiences with Baba. When Baba dropped his body, there was only about, I think, 7 people or 6 people came from the West. The entire West. There were thousands of Easterners that had come, and Baba was lying in state in the tomb. And there was only maybe about, I don't know, 5 or 6 or 7, very, very few from the West. And the reason was, and because Eric says, where's all the Westerners? When my brother Edward and I were at the foot of the hill where Baba's Samadhi is at the top, Eric says, where's all the Westerners? And I said, you know, they were told that they would be more of a burden on you at this particular time. Baba having dropped his body, you had too much on your mind and too much to do. And they were telling, the group heads were saying that no one should go. Well, Fred and Ella were the group heads in New York. And when I was over at their house, Fred tells me, you know, we're telling everybody not to go. We don't want to, it's too much work for the Mandali, his disciples. I said, I'm not going to do that. My brother Edward said, we're not going to do that. We're going to go. He says, you're going to go after I'm telling you not to go? You're going? I'm telling everyone not to go? I said, yes, where are you going? I'm Baba's son. The son belongs with the father. If he drops his body, passes, that's where I go. So it wasn't like Baba declared I'm a son. I declared myself as a son. Because we all feel that warmth, that family, that he's so close to all of us. So, and I said, you know, Fred, I know what you're saying to everybody, and you're saying for what you feel is good reason. But let me tell you, you're going to regret if you don't go. You will regret that. So he says, all right, do whatever you want. So, of course, we left. Later on, when he came, he did tell me, he said he would have liked to have been there at the time when you could still see Baba. I didn't even know you could still see him in the tomb, because the cable that came said that Mayor Baba has dropped his physical body to live eternally in the hearts of his lovers everywhere, and has been interned in his tomb, which he ordered to be built for him long ago, you see. So we thought, well, interned meant covered. That was not the case. He was not covered. In fact, we had the good fortune to be able to help cover Baba in that samadhi at that time, when the time came that he was to be covered. Because Mera had asked Baba before he dropped his body, how many more days he would have to suffer. And Baba said 7 more days. So on the 7th day, which was February 7th, that was the day that she said, now cover him, because she was truly heartbroken. She really suffered as a result of his passing. She was so close and loved Baba so completely. But then for 20 years, she lived on, and she told all the wonderful experiences she had with Baba to his lovers as they would come in pilgrimage to Mehrabad. So that they had the good fortune of hearing all of this from her directly. And when I went out to film in 1971, I filmed her stories about her telling the things that happened, because it was the first time that any of these Mandali ever told what happened when they were with him. All along, during Baba's life, the focus was totally on him, not on his disciples. This was not, they were just there to serve him, to obey whatever he asked them to do. But when he left his body, then the focus turned to them to tell us what happened during those years that you spent with him. And that they did. And we filmed all of them at that time. And some of you may see the films. Some of them show them here at the center. And there are other centers that have it as well.
How did you get involved in taking footage?
Well, it happened at Adi and Merji in 1970. For the first time, there were 2 disciples coming to the West to tell their stories. And when we heard that they were coming over, we thought, oh, we should go to, because we were in Miami, we'll go to New York and we'll greet them when they come in through the airport. Be good for them to see somebody that they already knew, and along with others that had come there to greet them. So I was passing this camera shop, and I see they have a camera. A camera that for the first time, you could hold it in your hand, and it had a cord that went to a tape recorder, and it would record lip synchronization. The sound and the film would be synchronized. So I thought, oh, this is nice. I'll take it with me. Maybe we'll take a few rolls of film of them. Well, those few rolls, it turned out that they were telling such interesting things that that we decided to go and travel with them wherever they went, and I bought hundreds of rolls of film in the course of the time. It was never pre-planned. There was no premeditation about this. It was just spontaneous. This is what we decided to do. So we traveled with them, and as a result, there was 10 hours of movies that was done in private with them, and in hotels, and with the and when they were talking to groups of people, and it was just wherever they were, we would be filming them. I have a very interesting tale to tell what happened with Ivy Deuce. Ivy Deuce was the head of Sufism at that time. She was the Murshida. And so we traveled to California because Adi and Merji were going to California, so we wanted to film them there, and we did with the Baba groups that they talked to, but they were also going to talk to the Sufis. So I called up Ivy on the phone, And I said, you know, we're filming their stories. We would like to come to the Sufi Center when they talk over there as well. She says, well, that's not possible. I said, well, is there a reason for that? She said, well, he's going to be just talking to, they're going to just be talking to the Sufis. It's our chance to hear them. And we're not having anybody else come, just Sufis are going to be there for that. So I said, well, you know, this is an important thing. It's a documentary, you know, for the future as well. And we wanted to film their, everything they say. No, you can't do that. This is not for that. You can film them in other places. So you know what I did? I did the one thing that I had to do. I put the phone down as she's talking. No. I'm putting the phone down. I say, Baba, if you want us to be able to talk, to film so that people one day can see this here, then you're going to have to make it possible, because she's saying no. So I pick up the phone and she said, but you can come on Tuesday. All of a sudden, that was the day that they were coming there. The one day that they were going to come. So I said, that sounds good. I said, we'll be there. And that's what happened. You know, this is what happens. If you think that Baba, because he's not in physical form, he can't respond to your sincere request, and if it's for a good purpose, you're in. He'll turn it around. You know, he'll turn it around. Yes.
How was it filming Mara?
Mara was how it was to film Mara. Well, she told many stories about about her life with Baba. She was she loved Baba so dearly, so completely, and Baba loved her. Baba really loved her very much. Baba once said that in the hierarchy of things, he didn't use the word hierarchy, but in the way things are, Mera comes first, then the Mandali, then my lovers, then the world. And that's how he put it. And the stories that she told were very personal, very like when Baba would be sitting at the table having tea, and she would said Baba liked a lot of sugar in the tea. You know, you would put the sugar in. And you know how people were at that time. I don't know, maybe now too. What? So much sugar? You don't put so much sugar. It's not good for you. But with Baba, it was what he wanted, they did. And I just can only say that all of these mandali, they told such really incredible things. When you go, see, the center has the full set of over 100 DVDs, which was what we done on video. But there was another big documentary done on film of all of these here disciples all over the world, in Australia and throughout Europe and throughout India, north and south and all over the place, and throughout the USA. I mean, there was so much done on film, which was a whole separate documentation than what we did on video. None of that has been copied yet. How do you like that? But it's there to be done. It's just that it's much more expensive and costly to copy film and to digitize it and do all you have to do than it is for video.
I know I saw your movie Avatar of the Age, and it has to deal with a lot. It was great footage of the Mus. And what do you think, in your opinion? I know there's a lot to it. Baba's work, his main goal in working with the Mus. What was his main? Very
well. He explained that these Mus were stuck. But they were stuck on a higher plane. They were not conscious like we are in the gross world. They were in the subtle worlds of energy and the mental worlds of mind. And they were in much higher levels, but they were also stuck at their levels. They couldn't advance. So because he's the avatar, he would give them a push forward so that they could begin to advance again, but he would also want to use them for his own work for humanity here because he was in physical form. So this is what happened with the Mus. And Baba would go to every extreme to contact them. There was no hardship that was too hard that he wouldn't do. And he put his disciples through very difficult journeys, contacting them, because in India, it's not so easy to get around. Now it's much better. But in those days, it was really hard to get around. You had to go with bullock carts, and cars would get stuck in the muds and everything. I mean, it was a whole other thing. But you can see some of that in this movie, because it was taken at that time. There is no other film other than what is in that movie showing Baba journeying to contact Mus.
How do we have that footage?
Can you tell us about the making of that film?
Well, Deshmukh was the same one that edited the original discourses of Meher Baba. He was a very intelligent man, and Baba would like making a fool of him at times, because they would play this game where you threw the ball at the, I don't know, at 7 tiles. That's what it was. Thank you. It was 7 tiles, and you had to throw the ball and knock over the tiles. That was the game. So Baba was very good, he's expert at whatever he did. And then the other Mandali would be throwing the ball, and they were getting it, not getting it. But Deshmukh could never hit the thing. So Baba would tell him, he had a string of PhDs and all kinds of degrees, a whole string. You say, how can a person get so many degrees? But he had it. Anyhow, so Baba would say, no, move up some. So he would move him up a few more feet, and he'd throw the ball again, nothing. Couldn't hit the thing. And Baba would move him up more, and still he couldn't hit it. Finally, he's practically on top of it, and he can't hit it. And then Baba just threw his hands up in the air and said, he can go now. It was a lot of fun. They had a lot of fun doing that. But that was Deshmukh. But he also took the footage of the Mus, and he told me that he asked Baba, he said, Baba, so much is written about these Mus in the Wayfarers that no one has seen them. Can't I take my camera, take some film? So Baba said, yes, in that case, okay, because there should be some record of the world later seeing how Baba was with the Mus. And so he took these clips. But if you would see the original footage that we worked from, you wouldn't recognize what you see in the film, because we did so much work to make that film flow, and where you could really see all the detail of everything that was going on. Which originally you would just see some fast clips, clip, 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 and that would be like that. I'll give you an example. One of the scenes was where Baba was shooting marbles. Now this was not with the Mus, but it was another part of the film, where he was shooting marbles, and he was telling, in the movie you'll hear him telling of how he shoots marbles with the universe. It's incredible, for anybody to say a thing like that. So that particular piece of footage was 10 frames long. Now let me just tell you how long on the screen that is. 10 frames, and the film is going at 24 frames a second. Wow. 24 frames a second is how film goes through a projector. So this was 10 frames. Less than half a second. All right. By the time we were done with that footage, in full motion, we were showing from that 10 frames, it was about 45 seconds of film of Baba shooting marbles, and the things, and then it gave time for the things he would say about how he shoots marbles with the universe and this and that. I mean, some really important things he was saying. And with the music and everything, it just was able to flow. We saved that footage, you know. I mean, anybody else would have edited it right out. I mean, what can you do with 10 frames? You know, it's too fast. But we wanted to save everything and show and make something of everything. So that film footage, which was only about 30 minutes of film footage, turned into an hour and 20 minutes of film. And that's how you see what you're seeing on there. You would never recognize what that looked like in its original form. But now we have a really beautiful movie, and those musts too. Oh, those musts, they were something else. And you could see the bliss in their face, how they, and Baba was telling about how they experienced bliss, and you see the must and bliss. I mean, you had it in front of you. That was.
That one big guy when he
Yeah,
throws
yeah.
his head back with the beaming smile.
Right. That's right. That's right.
The scene when he's walking away is just so moving.
That's right.
Oh.
That's right.
I thought of Henry's narration. Did Henry write the, did you help, you and Henry both write the narration? I thought he was phenomenal. His narration was great.
Well, that narration, no, Henry didn't write the narration.
Try
What?
to repeat kind of what they're saying so we know what you're talking about, because without a microphone, they're not getting picked up.
Oh, yes, he was asking about Henry Kashouti, who recited the quotations of Mayor Baba, the quotes, because the whole film is Mayor Baba's own quotes. You know, we didn't use any narration that somebody makes up. We wanted people to hear exactly what Baba said, because Baba always spoke so clearly. Who's going to say it better if they tried to narrate it themselves? But Henry Kashouti was the one that recited the quotes that were in that film as the voice of Baba. Now, Baba was silent, so naturally the whole film was taken. There was no sound to it. When Deshmukh took this film, it was all silent film. We had to add whatever Baba said in those scenes from what we from what was found during the times that he was with it. So it's a very close simulation of what could have been said, but it certainly matched what people were seeing so that they could understand better what Baba was doing. And we had like Baba telling the story of what he was doing. Well, now, but you asked about how it was written. After the whole film was done, just film-wise, no sound, just a picture, after it was all done and put together and everything, that's when I wrote a script, which was the script that is in that movie, which had all the words matching the picture, all of the music, what's music, where it begins, starts, ends, all of that, because a lot of the words in the songs matched what was going on the scene. And we took those, so I took those parts that would match it, that's what you would hear. And the music, so the music flowed, you know, like that. Henry then was brought in to recite the dialogue, the words. And when he did that, there was no picture that we tried it first with the picture and it didn't work. So I said, just say what it is, and then in the editing booth, we will match it up ourselves to the picture. So that's how his voice came into the film. But he was the right voice for that. And, you know, if you ever heard Henry speak, he has a powerful voice. This would not have worked for this movie. So I said, Henry, when you speak, just speak above a whisper. Recite the words, but above a whisper. And so his voice in that way came across really nice. And that's how the part of the soundtrack was done. When you see the movie, yeah.
A little bit about your meeting Baba.
Well, you know, I liked Baba. And Baba liked me. That was the thing. You know, we liked each other. If you meet the God-man, that's the first thing. You want to be able to like each other. And it was very easy to like Baba. He was so loving. And he was very wise. You know, I'll say this. One day he said to me, "You were sent to me by another master." He never explained who that person was or who what. But at the time, I didn't have the curiosity either to want to know that, because I was with Baba. You know, with the avatar, what am I going to think about who else? But it was good of somebody that was capable of doing a thing like that to arrange this time for me. Now, I did have a dream, and this was some years later, in which I saw Baba in my dream, along with a bunch of other young people. We were sitting around him. And Baba was saying, "I have to go now down to the earth, and because I have to help the humanity. So who wants to come with me?" And so the others, they raised their hand. There was a small group of young people with him. And then, but I didn't raise my hand. So in the dream, Baba looked at me and he said, "Don't you want to come?" I said, "No, I don't want to go." He says, "Why not?" I said, "Because it's such a big planet. There are so many people there. I don't know where you're going to be or who's going to be where. I won't even be able to remember anything. So why would I want to go there? I would be not knowing anything, and I'm going there." So he says, "Oh, well, in that case, I'll see to it that you meet me, that you come to me." So I said, "Well, okay, now I'll go." Now I'll go. And it really turned out like that.
Were you with
Yeah.
Baba? You had that dream?
No, this was afterwards. It gave me some insight as to how come I had part of the reasons I met him, I suppose. But, and then he told me some very important things, because I wanted to know God. I wanted him to show me God. I didn't want to hear about it, read about it. I didn't care to hear people talk about it like I'm doing. I just wanted to see the thing for myself, you know? I mean, all these centuries, people are talking about God, God. Who sees anything, you know? Who's there to see? Well, there definitely were great souls and advanced souls that saw a lot, but very few people like that. So I felt this is what I want to know, and that's why I wanted to see Baba. And then Baba told me during the course of things, he said, "One day I will show you what you want. It's just you have to wait for the things, the right time for things. You know, it's like a kid comes to a professor and says, I want to be able to know calculus like you. Show it to me." So he says, "All right, you'll go through the steps, and I'll see to it that you see it, that you'll know it too." Well, in the case of the avatar, it's even more so. You go through the steps, and then you'll get there. And that's what I've come to understand, because that's what's happening. You see, not because that's the way I want it, it's only because that's the way it is.
So you're not perfect yet?
I don't think that anybody should think I am. I'm not thinking that way. You know, no, of course not. But the time for that when the time comes, then you know. You know, no one has to tell you you're perfect or not. When you come to that state of seeing yourself everywhere and everything, which we don't see ourselves like that now, then you know, nobody has to say anything. Mayor Baba, J. Baba.